There is a kind of success that comes at a steep price. It's praised, validated, and applauded, yet it demands something profound in return: the distance from one's own truth. In the pursuit of this success, many build impressive careers, chase recognition, and accumulate achievements. But somewhere along the way, something essential begins to unravel. It's subtle, not immediately visible, but very real. The connection to one's true identity starts to fracture. Modern life offers many ready-made paths, models of living that appear to work, goals that seem universal. But when we enter this game without reflection, we risk discovering that achieving what we set out for does not bring a sense of triumph, but rather a strange feeling of disconnection. It's a misalignment deep within that is hard to name, and rarely finds a voice. Carl Jung didn't define success in the way we commonly do. For him, the real victory wasn't about conquering the external world, but about maintaining the integrity of the soul throughout the journey. When that integrity is compromised, it doesn't matter how far you climb, something inside you remains unsettled, fragmented, waiting to be made whole again. This isn't about rejecting the world or romanticizing isolation. It's about reclaiming your center. It's about making decisions that feel genuine once more. Because success that demands self-betrayal is at best a bad deal dressed as a good one. The real question isn't just what have you achieved, it's who did you have to stop being in order to get here. This is an invitation to pause, not to give up, but to redirect the journey. It's a conversation for those who have already realized that there are voids applause cannot fill, and for those who feel, even if only faintly, that something vital still needs to be recovered. No formulas, no ready-made answers, just one direction: a return to yourself, a return that doesn't fear abandoning what was never truly yours. You may believe you're in control, but stop and ask yourself, how many of your recent decisions were truly yours? How often have you said yes when your heart screamed no? How many times have you received praise for accomplishments that didn't even resonate with you? There's a vast difference between living life and merely performing it. And many people, maybe even you, are stuck playing a role they've mastered so well that they no longer know where the act ends and the truth begins. This is what Jung called identification with the persona. And this isn't a theoretical idea. We see it in our daily lives. It's how you behave at work, with friends, with family, how you tailor your words to appear professional, agreeable, or mature, how you suppress your true emotions to fit into the moment, even when everything inside you wants to burst free. This constant performance is not just exhausting, it's alienating. You begin to form relationships based on the image you present, not the essence you hold. And over time, no matter how surrounded you are by others, you start to feel deeply alone, because no one truly knows who you are anymore, and maybe you don't either. This disconnection doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It seeps in gradually. It begins with small compromises. You swallow irritation here, meet an expectation there. You start censoring yourself, dulling your spontaneity. Then one day, you wake up with the painful sense that life is passing by, and you're not really in it. This is the danger. The world continues to applaud your performance. It keeps rewarding you, promoting you, praising you for being on track. But no one notices the void forming inside, because it's silent and socially acceptable. As long as you're functional, no one questions your pain. But that pain is real. It shows up in unexplained anxiety, in sleepless nights, in an emptiness that success cannot fill. And here is the harsh but necessary truth: if you keep performing, you will eventually forget how to be yourself. And when that happens, there's nothing left, just a productive body, hollowed of soul. So before you lose yourself completely, it's time to pause, really pause. Ask yourself, who is this version of me that I show the world? And who inside me is being silenced so that this version can exist? This leads us to the heart of the matter. When success, this ideal we so fervently chase, becomes a trap that disconnects us from who we truly are, Let's break down how this dynamic operates, often unnoticed, until it has a hold on you. You've been conditioned since childhood to believe that success equals fulfillment, that if you just earn the degree, land the job, and achieve financial independence, life will fall into place. But no one warned you that you could accomplish all of this and still feel completely lost, because the kind of success the world offers rarely aligns with the needs of your soul. The issue isn't success itself. The problem is when it becomes the sole measure of a meaningful life, when it transforms into an external goal that consumes everything: your time, your energy, your choices, your relationships. You start giving up pieces of yourself to chase it. And the closer you get, the more it dawns on you. Maybe they're just an endless race. Jung put it bluntly: the unlived life is a disease from which one can die. It sounds extreme, but reflect on it. How many people do you know who followed every step in the playbook and still suffer emotionally? Frequent breakdowns, unstable relationships, a lingering sense that something isn't right. That's not random. It's the natural consequence of a life disconnected from one's essence. Success that's defined solely by external metrics comes with a hidden cost. It asks you to adapt to spaces that don't welcome your true self. It encourages you to accept paths that stifle your creativity, your sensitivity, your originality. And all of this is sold as personal and professional growth. But rarely does anyone mention that for many, this growth comes at the cost of inner erosion. You ascend the ladder, but maybe the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. And by the time you realize it, you feel trapped. You've invested so much already. You've crafted an identity you feel obligated to maintain. You've made so many sacrifices that turning back feels impossible. This is how success quietly becomes a prison. It traps you in a life that feels impossible to leave without being labeled a failure. But real failure isn't about changing direction. It's about continuing down a path that depletes you just because it looks good on paper. It's becoming someone unrecognizable just to maintain an image. It's ignoring every internal warning sign, simply because the outside world keeps applauding your progress. The truth is, it's not too late, but only if you're willing to confront reality honestly. Success that isn't aligned with your true self is a quiet form of self-destruction. The earlier you recognize this, the more room you have to rebuild from a place of authenticity. So how can you tell if you're drifting away from yourself? What are the real-world indicators that your soul is being stifled by the life you're living? That's what we're going to explore now. How this disconnection slowly infiltrates your daily life and begins to wear you down from within. You won't wake up one morning with an obvious sign that you've lost touch with who you are. The disconnection is gradual, almost invisible, hidden in the routines of everyday life. That's what makes it so dangerous. By the time you notice, you've often been living as a curated version of yourself for months or even years, functioning, but not really feeling. Start by examining your decisions. How many of them are rooted in your own values and desires, and how many are based on fear? Fear of disappointing others, of going against the grain, of losing something others consider important. When you say "I want this," is that want truly yours, or is it something that was handed to you by someone else's expectations? Notice your silences, the times you suppress the urge to speak your truth, when you self-censor before expressing, when you avoid conflict, not from a place of maturity, but because you're afraid your real thoughts won't fit the role you've been playing. Every time you do that to protect your image, you let go of a piece of your authentic self. Also pay attention to your energy. Not physical, but emotional and mental. When the day ends, do you feel alive or completely drained? Do the things you spend your time on bring any kind of fulfillment, or do they just leave you exhausted? Living disconnected comes with a cost. You begin to feel numb. Life loses its color, its richness. What once inspired you no longer even registers. Over time, this dullness becomes your new normal. Your emotional responses shift too. Minor issues may provoke intense reactions, or significant moments may pass by without stirring anything in you. This is your unconscious reacting to the buildup of neglected feelings, unexpressed needs and suppressed desires. These hidden parts of you don't disappear. They gather pressure and eventually leak out. Your sense of identity also begins to blur. You play one version of yourself at work, another with friends, another at home, but none of them feel quite real. You're constantly adjusting, trying to meet expectations, and eventually, you lose sight of who you really are. This also shows up in your relationship with solitude. Being alone becomes uncomfortable, because it forces you to confront what you've been avoiding, that you don't know what you truly want, what gives your life meaning, or what lights you up, and that's terrifying. These aren't dramatic breakdowns. They're subtle, persistent signals, a background discomfort, a quiet sense that something is off, even when everything seems to be going well. Now that you know what to look for, the most important question becomes, what can you do about it? How do you start listening to yourself again? How do you rebuild a relationship with your own thoughts, emotions, and desires, without destroying the life you've built? That's what we'll explore next. It's time to talk about real solutions, practical steps and tools you can use right now to begin the journey back to yourself. Here's the good news. Losing your way isn't the end. It's a call, a silent message from your inner self, urging you to return home. And in this case, home means returning to who you really are. But that return isn't automatic. It takes intention, awareness, and most of all, action. Let's move beyond theory and into real-world practices that can act as bridges back to your core. The first one is deceptively simple, but deeply transformative. The radical act of sitting in silence. Not guided meditation, not soft background music, just you, completely still, without distractions, no phone, no tasks, no noise. This is much harder than it sounds, because when you remove the external noise, all the internal voices you've silenced begin to surface, and that discomfort. That's where the real work begins. The initial unease is the cost of reconnection. Another essential practice is what Carl Jung referred to as dialogue with the unconscious. One of the most accessible ways to start this is through deep, uncensored journaling. Take a notebook and just write. Don't worry about structure, grammar, or how it sounds. No one will read it. Let your thoughts spill out, even the strange, the sad, the irrational. This opens a direct channel to the parts of you that haven't had space to speak for far too long. It is within this stillness that hidden truths begin to surface. These revelations might arrive as vivid memories, buried emotions, or forgotten dreams. Each one must be embraced with acceptance, not judgment. Incorporating what are known as symbolic reconnection rituals into your daily life can help restore this lost connection. This could mean taking a walk without any distractions, not to arrive anywhere, but simply to feel your body and its sensations. It could be preparing a meal with full presence, turning it into an act of self-care, or even saying no to something minor, just to affirm the strength of your own will. Though small, these acts hold profound power. They send a message to your unconscious that you are here again, ready to reclaim your life. One especially vital practice is progressive sincerity. Begin experimenting with what it feels like to live more closely aligned with your authentic thoughts and emotions. This doesn't mean abruptly confronting everyone or ending relationships without care. It means noticing where you stay silent the most and gently starting to express your truth in those moments. Where you once performed, begin to be real. Every small act of honesty rebuilds your internal foundation and reconnects you to your essence. But be aware, this journey involves deconstruction, and that can be unsettling. The more authentically you live, the more you may upset those who benefited from your past self. That's what we must now address. The pain of disappointing others. It's one of the most challenging and freeing parts of this path. In fact, it's often a sign that you're finally living in alignment with your truth. If any part of this speaks to something you've been quietly holding inside, my ebook Beyond the Shadow expands on Jung's insights and offers practical tools to support this inner reconnection. The link is in the pinned comment. No true transformation is possible without discomfort. One of the most profound is the discomfort of disappointing others who once knew you only through your performance. As you start saying no to what you once accepted, as you begin asserting your needs where there was only compromise before, you will notice changes, and so will others. Their reactions might be subtle or stark. A colleague might bristle when you no longer fit in. A family member may take offense when you don't follow their expectations. A friend may be surprised by your honesty. And perhaps most difficult of all is the unspoken disappointment from those who expect you to return to your old self. What you're actually doing is breaking unspoken agreements, emotional contracts that were never explicitly made but have long governed your behavior. Here lies the key truth. Most people are not disappointed in the real you. They're disappointed in the version of you they constructed and you maintained. Their sadness isn't about your authenticity. It's about losing the illusion that kept a relationship in balance, even if that balance was false. This pain, as sharp as it may feel, is also a signal of rebirth. Each time you stay true to yourself and let someone down because of that, you reaffirm your loyalty to your own soul. This takes courage. It's tempting to apologize, to minimize yourself, to perform again just to avoid friction. But the cost of doing so is immense. When you constantly try to avoid disappointing others, you often end up betraying yourself, suppressing real needs, hiding honest feelings, and maintaining relationships built on performance instead of truth. Jung described individuation as a process of separating from collective identity, inherited values, and social roles that no longer serve you. It can feel isolating at first. You may seem selfish, difficult, or odd. But it's important to remember you cannot truly find yourself without letting go of what you are not. Over time, something beautiful unfolds. The relationships that survive this transition become more genuine and fulfilling, built not on illusion, but on reality. And new connections arise, ones that resonate with your real self, not the version you used to portray. This marks the beginning of a new chapter, one where success is no longer defined by applause, status, or validation, but by something deeper and far more lasting, the quiet peace of self-recognition. With this image, we bring our journey to a close. The path we've walked has redefined success, not as a goal achieved, but as an internal reconciliation, a life where you are no longer fragmented, but whole. Ultimately, the number of goals you've reached, the degrees on your wall, or the money in your account doesn't matter as much as what you see in the mirror. Not the physical mirror, but the mirror of your conscience, the one you face in the stillness of night, when everything else falls away. That's where the truth lies. Carl Jung reminded us that the soul doesn't rush toward goals. It isn't moved by achievements. The soul seeks truth, integrity, and wholeness. When you spend your life trying to live up to external standards of success, you risk sacrificing what would truly fulfill you, your authenticity. Real success is not a trophy on a shelf. It's a lifelong journey of aligning with your truth. It's the commitment to show up fully, to honor your conscience, and never abandon yourself again, even if that means starting over, confusing others, or letting go of comfort. And here's the truth few dare to say. Living authentically hurts at first, but it frees you in the end. Yes, you may lose people, stability and comfort. But what you gain, inner integrity, is something no one and nothing can take from you. And this is the foundation of any lasting joy. If you've made it to this point, it means something within you is already waking up. Some part of you has already realized you cannot keep living on autopilot. That part is your compass now. Follow it. Now I want to hear your story. When did you feel you were drifting away from your true self? Or more importantly, what are you ready to change starting today? Share it in the comments. It's more than engagement. It's a declaration, a first public step toward your truth. And if this video resonated with you, don't stop here. The next video continues this path of self-discovery. Watch it, because every conscious step you take is a quiet triumph against everything that tried to make you forget who you are. See you there.